No, there's nothing. There's nothing that would turn a lady on more than a 600-pound, 7-foot tall steel robot with hand clamps walking toward you.
Unless you've seen heavy metal, then you know it happens sometimes.
Oh, and you mentioned Sibian before. What is this interesting sounding nation you mentioned of Sibia?
Oh, I think it's in Asia somewhere. That's as much as I got.
Maybe I'll have to go there someday. Sounds fascinating.
I'm sure they have a website. Every country has one, right?
I mean, I don't know anything about these Sibians you mentioned, but I've heard other people talk about them, and, you know, based on what I've gleaned, the Sibians sound like a lovely people. Everybody's always saying how good they make them feel, and how nice they are, and how, you know, how nice looking they are, and how luxurious they are.
How well spoken they are.
The Sibians just must be an awesome culture.
Well, there is a Sibian.com. I didn't know.
I'll have to take a look. Oh my God!
You just said that because you saw the version for men. Because there is one.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually not going to plug it. Fuck it. It's a Venus 2000. We already said Sibian, so it's only fair to.
That is the proper name for the thing.
The Venus 2000. I like the name Sibian, and I hate the name Venus 2000.
I do like the product description, though. Built to provide unlimited sexual gratification, this device was marketed as Venus 2 from October 93 to April 98, and since then is the Venus 2000. The marketing history is a sort of superfluous, like, that doesn't make sense to me. It is a one-of-a-kind, hands-free masturbation aid with controllable stroking action that gives powerfully satisfying orgasms. You can achieve an orgasm in minutes or enjoy sensual stroking for hours. Click here for more information.
Would you like to know more?
So for those of you that would like to get more information, Sibian.com.
Yeah, and we're not being paid by those guys.
Fuck no.
They're just interesting sounding, so. Although, you know, we'll work out a deal, guys.
Yeah.
Send us an email.
No problem. We'll endorse that. RealDoll.com.
Oh, yeah, whatever, you know. Any of those things out there.
Divine Interventions. Religiously themed sex toys. One of my favorites.
I'll plug just about anything. Like, whether I...
It's probably not a good way to say it in this context.
Honestly, I think about, like, you know, what advertising is and what marketing is and, you know, what it is to have a show and, like, I don't know. Like, honestly, like, this is sort of a little life lesson for you people is to... Just because somebody, like, has an ad on their show, like, I don't really think you should take a lot from that, so... You know, like...
Yeah, not really.
With that in mind, like, I'll probably plug just about anything. And, you know, it's just the nature of the game, nature of the beast. But with this Venus 2000 thing, that name is just so bad. Like, I can imagine the meeting somebody had, and there was a bunch of stooges in there, I bet, and... They're all sitting around a table, and they're like, we need to figure out a better name for the Venus 2. Now, I don't want it to be ridiculous and cheesy and gimmicky sounding. I know. How about the Venus 2000? Because everything sounds better when you put 1000 in it of some type.
Well, that's obvious. I mean, clearly that's how you know. They put a lot of work into it. It's the Model 2000. And it's Venus, so it's supposed to appeal to you as, like, a feminine thing.
They should have just called it the Venus. Like, that would have sounded like Sibian. You know, it's simple, it's one word. You don't exactly know what they're talking about, but once the branding sticks to it, everybody will know. But 2000, come on. It sounds like a fucking, like, 1950s vacuum cleaner salesman showed up at your door and wanted to demonstrate, like, his new sucking action.
Hello, ma'am. Would you be interested in the Man Milker 2000? I've got the latest model.
Showing up at your door, you got curlers in your hair, fucking wearing one of those suit jackets with the plaid all over it, and, you know, greased hair. Just picture it now.
Plaid, suit jacket.
Like, they might as well have called it the Suckomatic 2000 for all... Jesus Christ, it's like a 3 o'clock in the morning infomercial. Like, does this ever happen to you? It's like some guy just failing at jerking off. It's in black and white. He's wearing a Snuggie.
That reminds me of our idea for the Ginsu chainsaw.
Yeah, expect a video sometime, probably not soon, but we have a couple of funny ideas for making fun of dumb things.
We've already tested it, and it does cut through soda cans. So, if that's what you're looking for, it's on its way.
Yes, one of the many amazing experiments we engage in here at Bad Guy Labs. So,
Is taking infomercial products and making them better. We're like 3M, but for shitty products.
yeah, or what is it? Underwriters Laboratories is another one that sort of looks into. Yeah, we do that, except not officially, and for the purposes of like getting a good laugh out of it because other people are being retarded.
Agreed.
So another thing I had in my mind is I've been sort of hearing the word Squatch being thrown around a lot lately.
Squatch.
And it just annoys the piss out of me. It's just...
You've clearly been on cryptozoology message boards.
Well, it's like on TV and like...
Oh, I know, yeah.
It's like other podcasts out there, like, you just hear it once in a while and, like, you know... It's just, people are sort of... Sometimes I'll run across somebody that's talking about like somebody that uses the word squatch, and it's just so fucking dumb on many levels. First of all, there's no Sasquatches, you fucking dolts. Second of all, like, don't go around acting like some know-it-all asshole who's got some fake expertise and like you know something other people don't, and like you made some sort of shorthand lingo to make you sound like a big shot that actually has a field of expertise when it's not existent. And you're like, yeah, that sounds like a squatch. That's a squatching. Or whatever the fuck it is you say. I don't even know.
Clearly, because of all of the squatch samples that we have, this is characteristic. This is an exemplary, you know.
And this isn't a show for, like, sort of... Our main purpose here isn't to, like, debunk things. Even though if there is bunk in something, I want to get that bunk the fuck out of there. But
we're at least going to point it out.
Yeah, it's not, you know, if you want to listen to a show like that, there are plenty of them out there. But, you know, when it comes to this, like I'm not going to go through, like, why there's no Bigfoot and, like, that sort of angle. I'm just irritated as shit fucks that there are people out there now using the word squatch instead of Sasquatch. It's bad enough that you're using a name like Sasquatch for an animal that doesn't exist, but now you're just like that extra cool Sasquatch guy. He's like, yeah, it's a squatch. I know. I've been out there. I've been around. Squatch.
People that are into this have tried to come up with scientific names for it too. Have you heard those?
I'm not surprised, but I'm not aware of any of them.
Gigantopithecus?
Oh, yeah. I've heard people try to say that. But Gigantopithecus, wasn't that an actual animal?
Was that a real thing?
From, like, you know...
so they're trying to...
Thousands of years ago or something.
Maybe. If somebody knows, they should tell me, because I thought it was totally made up. If it's real and they're basically stealing it to give themselves credibility, they're even bigger shitheads.
Yeah, that was my understanding. Is there's some sort of animal that's you know, it's like one of the many ape fossils that we found, and Gigantopithecus is just, unless I'm completely fucking off on here, but I'm pretty sure if my fuzzy memories are anything to go on, Gigantopithecus is a real animal that existed at one time, and my fuzzy memories are you know how rock solid my fuzzy memories are. I mean, come on. So
fair enough. Yeah, that shit is fucking goofy.
But yeah, I've heard that before, and like there's a million like Native American names for, you know, Bigfoot or whatever the fuck, and you know, like over the years, like there's like army manuals with like Bigfoot listed in them as like an animal in like the Pacific Northwest, and There's like townships that put up Bigfoot crossing signs. I've seen pictures and like read articles about it, and and what like that's dumb enough. But this Squatch phenomenon that's happening now, Jesus, TF Christ.
That's how you know. That's how you know that they're for real, man. That's how you know that they're in it. They're in the thick of it.
So whatever. It's just another fun thing, another amusing thing, another stupid show that channels that should know better are putting on. But like that's a big issue is, and this has been in the buzz for a long time now. The History Channel, the Discovery Channel, the Learning Channel, other educational channels that are lesser known, nobody really gives a fuck about as much. They're running all these bullshitty shows, and it sucks that there's like good shows on like about legitimate things that actually exist in reality, or even shows like Mythbusters, which aren't the most accurate shows in the world, but they're pretty cool, and at least they're not blowing smoke up your ass.
They're aiming in the right direction.
Yeah, it's a good starting point, and the like shows like that are legitimizing these bullshit shows, and I think it sucks a giant bag of donkey dicks.
Well, yeah, especially like you mentioned the History Channel, and to me the prototypical, or the thing that I can always go to as my touchstone on this is motherfucking Ancient Aliens. Like, you first of all, you lend a whole air of credibility by having a fucking cable channel called The History Channel, not the fictional History Channel, not the Sometimes History Channel, the history-ish channel, the History Channel, and you put on fucking Ancient Aliens. And it's not a show where the format is, here's some people that think some goofy shit, and then here's actual scholars who go, no, here's why that's wrong. It's, it's the guy with the Greek-sounding name and the goofy fucking hair, who's like, the ancients said in their scriptures that they saw people in the sky. So clearly, they must have actually seen people in the sky, because fiction is not a human capacity. People never make things up. Clearly, when someone was writing about Spider-Man, it's because they saw a guy shooting web around New York City.
Yeah.
Clearly. Yeah.
It's amazing, like the naivete that people will sort of go through. It's sort of basically, I look at it as a set of rules that you follow, which the official word is heuristics. Not that like I really give a shit, but I prefer the concepts over the official names, like whatever they may be.
Yeah, mental shortcuts.
So where are your defaults set? In my opinion, like the shit that goes on in my head is sort of a carefully crafted over time, like list of defaults, very similar to like software. Like you can go through like your software control panel and like change your default settings to whatever it is that you want them to be. And I think that's what people need to do a lot, is sort of their defaults are set on the wrong settings, and they sort of begin on the wrong premises. Like there's a rule that says that you're supposed to assume incompetence over malice. Like, all things being equal, sometimes people are malicious, but if you're not sure which it is, you should assume incompetence first. And that's a default. And there are many rules like it. And that's called Hanlon's razor, FYI. There's another one called Occam's razor, which is more famous, where it says all things being equal, you should accept the simplest explanation possible. And by simplest, they mean the explanation with the fewest number of assumptions built into it already. There's just default after default we can go down. Maybe in the future I'll talk about more of them, like whatever. But these Ancient Aliens guys, like they just assume the stupidest bullshit right off the bat. Their defaults are all wrong, and if they stopped making these bad assumptions, maybe they wouldn't be such dipshits. But that's just my 2 cents on that.
That would be difficult.
I guess dipshits make the world go round. The Ancient Alien guy and the Squatch guy, and the Chariots of the Gods guy, and
the Mothman hunters.
Now that's real.
Well, you know,
it's not real.
they're both, you know, Mothman is the son of the Jersey Devil. When the Jersey Devil fucked a moth, I guess.
The Jersey Devil fucked a crocoduck, and it created the Mothman.
For reasons that are beyond us. Clearly, it's something. It's something we just don't understand yet.
Yeah,
You know,
right. Yeah,
Science hasn't explained it.
because that's how that shit works.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there's it's all true. Everything's all true. Can't prove it isn't. Yeah. Fuck you.
Well, it just sort of fucks up with our world. Yeah. It just kind of fucks with our world that this shit is on TV, you know, gets propagated, you know, gets taken super mainstream. Like I wish there was a way to evaluate it or measure it, but like I do wonder, because it seems like the past decade or so has seen a super duper proliferation of like ghost hunting shows, and I wonder, I wonder, what is that evidence of? Is it just a simple trend, and you know, it hadn't been on TV ever, or just hadn't been on TV for a while, and it was new and novel, and that's why people are watching it? Is it tapping into a deeper cultural phenomenon, or, well, not or, but then also, you know, how does it fuck up people's thinking? You know, using scientific tools in unscientific ways, you know, thinking like jackasses. I don't know.
Well, it's definitely not helping anything. And this has been around for a long time. I mean, it's just, this is the latest iteration of bullshitty stuff that's been around. I mean, Houdini was fighting this shit 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, long before that even, there were people out there, Robert Ingersoll is another one from the 1800s who, you know, was a very realistic guy. And you can just keep going back and back and back to realistic people fighting the bullshit, right, throughout history. And excuse me, the bullshitters usually are far more prolific. I don't know, like I'm sure it's not good for people to watch ghost hunters, especially if their defaults are at the wrong settings and they don't understand how bullshit detection works. But I don't know. Like the question exists of like, is it just not good for you, or is it actively harming?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess somebody could do a study or something, but it'd be great if people didn't do that. Certainly.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not trying to get too heavy about it. I was actually going back to and starting to think about what we were talking about earlier, not in the show, but before we started recording, about Stonehenge. And like, you know, because of all those stupid shows for decades now, like every time one came on Fox or cable or something, or some other primetime network, I just think of Fox because it seemed like in the 90s, every Sunday night it was like, here's what's going to kill you this week, or Nostradamus and his prophecies, what he says about the end of the world, the Chinese are going to invade in 2003. Like, you know, and when you're 11, you know, you're like, oh shit, you know.
Oh yeah, I used to totally like love all that stuff, and I think a lot of people that have good bullshit detectors now sort of fall into that same category, and you know, we sort of, you know, realize the errors of our ways as we get older, and we adjust and we change our default settings. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like, I totally see what you're talking about, because I experienced the same thing with like watching Unsolved Mysteries and Sightings, and Leonard Nimoy used to host In Search Of. I used to watch that, and you know, the list goes on, and book after book of, you know, just weird paranormal and supernatural shit and cryptozoological shit, and there's dozens and dozens of categories. But
yeah, oh well, yeah, because I realized I didn't even finish my thought. About Stonehenge, because yeah, like I just seen all those shitty shows for so many years that were like, it's a mystery, who built it, why did they build it, what is it for? And so I was walking around like a jackass thinking, oh, you know, wow, an archaeological mystery, crazy. And then I watched like a Nova special like a year or two ago, and they're like, oh yeah, we pretty much know what this is about, like, yeah, like 96% of what's going on here. And I was like, motherfucker, like, you know, I could have had reliable information all this time, but you know, of course I had to go PBS to find it out. We can't bother putting that on TV because the truth is boring.
Yeah, and plus, like when I was a little kid, like I would watch everything. I'd watch those stories like on PBS, and I would also watch the weird, like paranormal shit. And since I didn't have a good filtering system in my brain, like I sort of watched it all and sort of kept what I thought was an open mind.
Yeah.
You know, and that's still sort of a trap. Like, because some things are just plain wrong. They're just not true. They're wrong, and they're stupid and fucking idiotic. You know, they're ridiculously wrong. They're so wrong they're not even wrong. As some scientists call something that wrong. And if you're a little kid and you never really like knew what to find plausible and not, like you sort of like, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. And there are a lot of adults out there that still do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just as bad as, it's not as bad, but it's really close to as bad as just believing the shit outright. You know, you're sort of legitimizing it as, well, maybe it's this way, maybe it's this way. We don't know. You don't know. Like, no, I know. I know the earth is round. It's not flat. Like, that's a thing I know.
Right.
And, like, there are other things out there like that. Like, and then everybody has their own little sacred cows. So, like, I'm going to say, like, oh, there's no Bigfoot. Like, and there's going to be the guy that, like, is very reasonable, except when it comes to big feet. And he's like, that's not fucking true. You don't know anything. You know? Like, no. And there's no Loch Ness Monster. Like, there's none of that shit. And I can very confidently say that, even though I don't absolutely know anything. And as a little kid, I sort of found it all plausible. It was all equally likely and mysterious and unknowable. And that's a shitty mindset to have. Not only are you not going to know like true things from false things, but it runs the risk for you to be taken advantage of by hucksters.
Yeah.
And, you know, that really sucks. And I had to learn a few hard lessons about that before I changed my ways.
Well, especially like because you're at such a disadvantage in a variety of ways when you're a kid. I mean, like two that come to my mind that are maybe not the most obvious is if you have adults around you that don't contradict the bullshit. Like, you know, these kind of TV shows I was talking about, I was always watching them at my grandparents' house, and they would come on, and I would be like, oh, God, do you think the world's going to end? And they'd go, maybe. Like, instead of saying, no, it's probably not going to end, don't worry about it, it's a TV show. They kind of went, we kind of think maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, fuck. Like, that freaked me the shit out. And the other side of it is like anything that's even vaguely old or historical. Like I know that even to this day, I still think of like the years just slightly before the time I was born as this magical time in history shrouded in mystery. Oh God, what was it like to live then? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
10 years before I was born. And even though I can, you know, intellectually look at that and go, well, that's silly, it somehow seems as if the time before I existed and was aware the world was magical. And that was more intense when I was a kid, and I was more susceptible to, you know, when people would say, oh, 30 years ago, and I was like, oh, fuck, you know, that's 3 times as long as I've been alive. That's so long ago. Who knows what could have happened?
I felt exactly the same way. So it's a huge sort of issue I have with all this stuff of sort of romanticizing the past, romanticizing this fake version of open-mindedness, people not correcting when, you know, if there's bullshit afoot, you know, like nobody correcting a kid, and you know, it's sort of important to catch this when they're young. You know, otherwise you're either going to spend your life being a believer in stupid bullshit, or you're going to go through a trial by fire before you learn the error of your ways. You know, either way, it's a risky proposition, and I think there's sort of more responsibility. Holy shit, that is a nice photo. Anyway,
sorry to throw you off your storytelling there.
Yeah, it's a risky proposition to put kids in that position, and you know, it'd be nice if there was more done for it, but you know, that's the world we live in, and honestly, like, you know, there are literally mountains of dead people piling up in the third world, and I guess, you know, at least I can say, you know, I'm not in that position, but it would have been nice to not think. I was really into it. Like, I really devoted a lot of my time to reading about Stonehenge and, UFOs. I totally believed in all that shit. Found it very plausible. And, like, all the crap about Area 51, or if you're a Simpsons fan, Area 51A. Just on and on and on.
Dreamland.
I even took a class in high school. There was like a quarter credit class that you could take kind of as a fun class, and it was called Scientific Phenomena. And it was just a class about all this shit, but not to debunk it, but to sort of study it. But the stupid assumption there was that there's a thing to be studied in the first place.
Yep.
And what I should have been taking were classes on the psychology of how people are fooled. Because that's totally where that's at. An example I remember when you were talking about Stonehenge earlier is like this idea that nobody knows how they built the pyramids. Like, that's been a huge thing that I've heard a lot. It's been sort of thrown around our popular culture, and like I actually came across a whole bunch of information with diagrams and everything, and there are complete explanations out there of how they built the pyramids. It's not a mystery. Like they have examples in the articles and stuff that I've read of like how you could completely lift heavy stone blocks up these pyramid step sides using nothing but logs and ropes, like using them as cranes, using mortise and tenon technology and things like that. It's totally doable, and you're just using a simple inclined plane. The three basic. What are the three basic machines? I can't remember. This is the inclined plane, the pulley, and the lever.
Yeah.
Just using those three things, you can accomplish a shit fuck ton. And there's another great video. Maybe I'll find it and put a link to it in the description in our YouTube channel. This one guy who built these concrete blocks that were like 20 tons. And he moves them around all by himself using nothing but like sticks and stones. And
oh yeah, I've seen that stuff. That's pretty cool.
It's proof of concept, And to these people out there that are like, "Oh yeah, we don't know anything. It's all it could be any which direction. Nobody knows, Like, and let's teach the controversy, So
that's my favorite.
That's and if you actually fucking check, like, there's usually a pretty good answer. It's not just mysterious forever. So
yeah, like I think probably the misconception is that like we're looking for the instruction manual they left behind, and they probably didn't leave an instruction manual behind because they probably didn't think that they needed to, or because I don't know, just who the fuck does that? Who builds a building and then in the basement leaves a book about how they built the building?
Yeah,
like it's just goofy. So and if you can replicate it, then don't fucking worry about it. Like.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the people that say aliens did it or whatever. Like that dude with the hair.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I could remember that fucker's name. It wouldn't help.
Well, everybody knows who he is, I think.
Yeah. So. The guy who's like, I'm not saying it was aliens. But it was aliens.
Yeah, that's a huge meme going around, that guy's picture, and, it gets thrown up like humorously above some post, and I'm pretty sure most people have seen it, so that guy.
Exactly. That's the guy we're talking about.
Now, if we could somehow have like the perfect storm of those guys to sort of come together, like their powers combined to form like a Captain Planet of bullshit, I'd like to see that.
That guy sits on the editorial board of conspiracy theory journals.
Yes, conspiracy theory journals. Interesting idea.
Submit your paper. I wonder what the criteria would be.
Maybe we should make one. We should make our own peer-reviewed conspiracy theory journal, sort of as like a Poe or something. What was the name you mentioned earlier? That would be
Conspiracy Theory Today.
Conspiracy Theory Today. Yeah.
Or Conspiracy Theory Bulletin.
Or we could just call it the Squatch.
A journal of conspiracy theory. Would we alienate some in that community by referring to it as conspiracy theory?
Yeah, maybe you'd have to. I don't know, unless like they believe that conspiracy theories are true. There's some people out there that that have called themselves conspiracy theorists, and they were conspiracy theorists. So I think it's sort of a mixed bag where, and you're never going to please everybody. So, fuck it.
Well, it just seems like it'd be awesome because it would totally conform to like, the conspiracy theory arms race to be more data driven and scientific seeming. To have an article chock full of citations and footnotes and diagrams. Like if people would submit this shit, it'd be priceless.
Yeah, I'll bet too that a lot of people would totally get sucked in by it and think it was the real deal. Even with this broadcast in existence, saying these words right now, it would still work.
Published by us.
Yeah, so it still totally work.
By Bad Guy Publishing. Not like Sage or Elsevier or any of those academic things.
Well, I mean, if you really wanted to be smart about it, I would call it conspiracy theory. What was it? Daily? Monthly? What'd you say it was?
Quarterly or bulletin or review or today.
Today. You said conspiracy theory today. Like, if you wanted to be really smart about it, it would be conspiracy theory today 2000. And the publishing company would be Bad Guy Labs 2000.
So everybody knows it's the latest and greatest.
Because it's like better. It's like the more gooder one, the 2000 version.
Clearly. And I'm starting to look forward to Volume 1, Issue 1.
Maybe like over time, as we like build up, what we're doing and figure things out, and we have more time. Maybe we can create some sort of thing that maybe people out there will want to like help out and contribute to it, so it doesn't just eat up all of our day. But that might be something to just sort of tuck away for later, sort of remember. It could be really hilarious.
Because we're definitely going to need some reviewers.
Yeah.
To have a standard turnaround time.
Huh. That could be an interesting crowdsourcing poll. Oh, yeah. So speaking of heuristics, another good one I wanted to mention that I sort of think about a lot just in my day-to-day life is sort of the rule I follow of what would a dumb person do? So example that happens to me sometimes is I'm out at a restaurant and they have a soda fountain there, and like people are like afraid to go get a free refill if they don't know.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, is it free refills here? Like should I go get one? Like just go get it. It's fine. Like if there's no sign up indicating either direction, just go get a refill. Like, this is where you ask yourself, what would a dumb person do? Would they freak out and panic and sit there having a conversation with themselves and others at the table for 5 minutes?
Right.
Or would they just cluelessly and sort of in a fog that they live in all the time get up because they want soda? And if you own a restaurant, there are dumb people out there.
Yeah. You have to be ready to corral them.
Right. So you set the rules up to begin with that knowledge. Now, if you're a smart person and you ask yourself what a dumb person would do, this is the conclusion you would arrive at. So, and the soda fountain's a metaphor for all these other things. Like, should I stop here at this point in traffic because I'm not getting any indicators of whatever I'm supposed to do, or should I just go and do whatever it is I think is right? Like, what would a dumb person do? Like turning right on red. Like, if you're not sure, what would a dumb person do? And or also, is there like a police cruiser sitting there? But even then, like if I'm not sure, I just go for it, and like it always works out just fine. So
yeah,
like, and there's literally a million different scenarios in life where this sort of heuristic takes place, and this is where the doers come from, and this is where like the people who sort of, even if you're not the brightest bulb in the pack, like sort of the go-getters out there, the self-starters, they're not sitting there worried about like, whether if they pour themselves another half of a cola, like if it's gonna like get them in trouble, whatever that means. They just do shit, and then like it works out. This is an example of where being overly analytical and too literal and almost too intelligent is like a huge stumbling block. And I think people need to be more aware of it.
Well, yeah, because it's almost like you're unnecessarily front loading the whole decision making process. You're trying to like deal with too much of the stuff up front, measure too many things, predict too many different outcomes instead of just fucking trying things.
Yeah. And then if something goes wrong, all you have to do is say you're sorry.
Right.
Or whatever it is. Or
Yeah.
If you get a ticket, for example, like, fine, you got a ticket. That happens in life. But
Mm-hmm.
look at all the times that you got away with whatever it is you did.
Right.
It's so much easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And oftentimes, like, you don't have to ask for the permission at all. It's not even an issue of asking for permission. It's just go fucking do it already and like get on with your day.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a similar sort of thing that I always think of is when it comes to like doubting your ability to do something or just being intimidated by a task or learning a new skill or, I don't know, trying something new is, like a similar metric is one that my mom always said, which is basically like, can a dumb person do this? Like she always likes to tell this story for God knows what reason. I guess it's just people get in their story circles that they like to tell. About learning to drive a stick shift and just constantly worrying about doing every single little last thing right and whether or not she's going to fuck up her car and all those kind of things, which I think are legitimate concerns. You don't want to fuck up your car, but she had to at some point say, I'm a smart person and lots of fucking jackass like shithead retards drive stick shifts, so I'm going to stop worrying so much and just learn how to do this.
It's a good policy. It's good policy. And how did that work out for her?
She can drive stick shift.
Ding! we need to find a sound effect for it.
Yeah.
The ding.
Ding, ding, ding. You rolled $1. Or spun $1, whatever.
I'll buy that for $1.
Sad trombone.
Not to be confused with the rusty trombone, which is
Never.
a callback to episode 1 and part of 2.
Really? We were doing rusty trombone
Well,
jokes?
we were doing references, sexual reference jokes to weird things that a lot of people aren't sure what they mean, like the Dirty Sanchez, etc. That would be another addition to that court case of somebody being hauled in for like downloading illegal porn, and they have to read the list of all the shit they downloaded. you on numerous occasions watched Rusty Trombones 32. Can you explain yourself? And especially why you kept watching minutes 17 through 29 over and over again?
And Chicks with Dicks 5.
Answer the question.
Which reminds me, this is the picture that I interrupted you with earlier. I went to the Real Doll website, and you can now buy she-male real dolls.
That's very interesting. That's so.
It's precious.
It's so confusing. I
So
feel confused inside. I have all these feelings. I don't know what to do with them.
Well, I've got a book I can give you. That seems to be the 1975 to present solution for teenagers. Well, we've got a book you can read.
The market is expanding as it should, and now they have these transgendered real dolls, and it's the future, people. We're living in the future. Cue the oldie-timey announcer guy who used to do like every educational / government / like sex education, like whatever film, whatever it was, Duck and Cover, doesn't matter.
Beware the homosexual.
Yeah, the warning shit. That's all bullshit now. The Reefer Madness shit, and it's just that same dude. And I think I think it's very interesting that there's that there's a company that's making that now. I think it's really cool, just in general, that like it's far more acceptable now to be gay or transgendered or any position really along the spectrum of like sexuality, and you know, people aren't like getting their balls busted, no pun intended,
Right.
for being like different, you know. So that's interesting.